Welcome to our first at-home training video. In this video we're going to be focusing on a point control exercise suggested by Paul Simpson. Now, as we're going to be focusing on point control, you will need a weapon to take part in this exercise. So apologies to anyone who doesn't have their own, and given the current situation we can't get weapons out to you. So if you haven't got your own weapon, you can't really take part in this exercise, but we will be releasing more videos over the course of the next few weeks, and most of them will not require you to have your own weapon, so there should be something that everyone can take part in, hopefully. But focusing on with this exercise, as it's a point control exercise, we've said that you'll need your own weapon, and the weapons that will be most suited to this exercise are the epee and or foil, given the nature of those weapons. But for those of you who do fence Sabre, it is still possible for you to take part in this exercise, as obviously Sabrers, you can still use the tips of your weapons to score a point. And likewise, we can adjust this exercise slightly to then focus on the blade manipulation skills that you may require in Sabre. But I will say there's already a better training video for Sabrers, which focuses on hitting, which has been designed by Epee, and I'll provide a link to their video at the end, so do check that out if you're interested in doing a bit more Sabre practice. Now, what will you need to take part in this exercise? As we've said, you'll require the use of a weapon, and if you're using a weapon, you always want to make sure you're using your fencing glove when training. Now, many of you may think the glove is simply there for protection, and that is its main purpose. But when you fence an opponent, you never fence without a glove. You never manipulate the blade, you never hold the blade without wearing your fencing glove. So if you're going to practice your point control, your blade manipulation skills, always wear your fencing glove. That way you get to feel the weapon as you would on piste. So once you've got your weapon and glove sorted, you then will need something to hit. And for this exercise, we're going to be using pound coins as a target. Now, you can use other coins if you don't have pound coins available. £2 coins work just as well, but they are slightly bigger, and we're going to try and give you more of a challenge in this video. So now that you've got a target, you need some way of presenting that target for you to hit. And pound coins work nicely for this because you should be able to balance them on top of most surfaces, he says. So, in order to know what height you want to be aiming at and balancing your pound coins on, treat yourself as your opponent for this exercise. Adopt your on-guard position, and then you'll see where your pound coin, where the surface comes up to on you, where it would come up to on your theoretical opponent. So as you can see, right now, the pound coin is coming up sort of midway on my torso. So it's an okay target, but I might want to be aiming a bit higher. So to help with that, grab something like a pan, something that's non-breakable, and you can adjust the height that you're aiming for, and you can see it's now slightly higher up my body, maybe a bit more of a realistic target. Now, to help both the exercise and the pound coin to stay in place, grab some blue tack, and you can just place the pound coin a bit more sturdily on your target. Not only does that hold the pound coin in place, but it will stop you from being able to succeed just by tickling the pound coin. You'll now have to stab the pound coin to knock it down in the exercise. With any of these exercises, there are safety considerations to think about. So you are obviously going to be using a weapon in this exercise, which means you need enough space to be able to move that weapon around safely without breaking anything or anyone. I do not want parents writing in to say that you've ruined some prized ornament. Please make sure you're in a safe space before doing any of these exercises. So, as you're going to be balancing pound coins on top of objects, I've got this box here. It's only going to go into the recycling later, it doesn't matter if I damage it. But do make sure anything that you're placing your pound coins, your targets on top of, is not something that is going to be easily damaged by a weapon if you miss. Likewise, if you're going to be balancing something on top of your surface, say this pan here, make sure it's something that's not made of glass, something that's not going to break. And for those of you who are living in a household which has other people in it, anytime you're going to do these exercises, do make sure they're aware of what you're doing. Last thing you want is for someone to walk in on you and you accidentally stab them. So for most of these exercises, a hallway could be a good place because you're going to have a long corridor, gives you a little bit more space, a bit more privacy as well. But if you're going to be doing that, make sure nobody can come around the corner. So if you've got doors, do keep them shut. And as I say, make sure to let the people know what you're doing beforehand. So now you've got everything set up, I've done the health and safety, we can move on to the actual exercise. Now that we've got the equipment we need for this exercise, we can set it up and actually get training. So I've got my pound coins on top of my pan, on top of my box here, at a reasonable height to recreate my opponent. Now you probably can't see the pound coins that well from where the camera is at current. Don't really have the best video recording software and was never really expecting to be making these kind of videos, but here we are. I will take another shot on my phone, which should be a first person perspective, which should hopefully make the exercise a bit clearer, but just to demonstrate the actions, I'm going to do it from further away so you can see the full exercise first, and then I'll show you the first person viewpoint. So always do this exercise as if you're fencing an opponent. Don't stand straight on and just extend the arm. Treat it like it's an opponent. Be in your on guard position, legs bent, ready to fence. And first of all, you want to position yourself so that you are one arm's length from your opponent or your target. So you want your tip to be just beyond where the coins end up. So about here will be a good distance for me. So just to get yourself warmed up, practice just extending the arm and hitting the target. So obviously you're probably not going to be able to see when I can hit the target, but hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound as I knock them over. This is going to be done live, so no guarantees I'm going to get it done the first time. So aim at the target, extend the arm. First attempt, very nice. And then just get used to practicing that from this distance of just extending the arm to hit the target. Once you've got a reasonable attempt at getting this successfully, increase your distance. So now extend it to a lunge distance. So step over back, hopefully you can just about still see me, and now attempt to lunge and hit the target. So once you're getting more confident, you can then, instead of taking the time to aim, try and fence more realistically, so more of an accelerated lunge. Don't take the time to prepare, aim, lunge, try and do it all in one action. So you're going to aim and lunge. That way you can show this has been done nice and smoothly, first time. Haven't hit 4 in a row. Let's try that again. Close, but again I took it a bit slower, so I'm aiming just to extend and hit my target like so. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm running out of space, but one way you can then extend this exercise is to do it with a step lunge. Don't worry about putting step lunge, just take the exercise from the direct hit, take a step back, lunge and hit, and once you're happy with all of that, you can do a step lunge and hit. And as I say, I'll now show you that from the first person viewpoint. So you can see I've got my coin targets lined up on the pan, and I'm now going to position it so that the tip of my weapon can just go past my targets when my arm is fully extended. So I'm going to try and keep everything in frame here. Let's see how this goes. So the first exercise is just to aim at the target, extend the arm, and hit. Obviously missed that time. Like so, so you can aim and hit your target. You do have to make sure you're hitting with enough force to knock the target off. So once you're happy with that, you can then step back, and we're going to move this into lunging and hitting. So again, you extend the arm, lunge, and hopefully hit, like so. And you can just keep practicing until you're happy with the desired outcome. I've so far demonstrated this point control exercise using a foil. However, you could just as easily do this exercise with an Epee. Now, for the Sabre, we can modify this exercise ever so slightly. You could use it simply as a point control exercise to extend and hit, as hitting the point is still a valid technique in Sabre, and it can confuse many explorers who aren't really expecting it. But what we're going to do is show you a way that you can look at cutting the blade. So once again, as usual, you want to be hitting the last 2 inches of the blade. So when you position yourself at an arm's reach from the targets, make sure that the tip of the blade is going just beyond the targets. That way you can get a good hit on them. And what we're going to do is just look at cutting with a pronated hand and then a supinated hand. So pronated is knuckles on top, supinated is palm up. So we're going to recreate cutting to the right, cut to the left, cut to the right, cut to the left. And if you add a bit more blue tack this time, you can hold your pound coin in place for longer and just get used to cutting on the right, cutting on the left, right, left. And that way you can just get some fine control of your blade in place. And eventually you will not cut it over, but that's fine, just reset it. Another thing, so once we've done this fine blade control of doing cut to the right, cut to the left, pronate, supinate, you can increase the distance again and look at lunging and hitting the target. So this time you will be aiming to displace the target. Make sure you've got nothing breakable that the coin can fly off into. I've just got a wooden door. Won't do much damage if it hits that. So, but check with whoever's house you're in before you start destroying things. Do not leave me to be responsible. So, standing at lunging distance, extend the arm, cut the coin, cut your target. Like so, missed and hit the pan that time. That was even worse, it was a handle. There you go. So remember, in Sabre you need to hit your target before your foot hits the floor. Obviously you can't see, but just trust me that my footwork was relatively okay in that one. So, I'll now show you a first person perspective of this as well. So, this time we're going to be looking at cutting the targets, and you want to be using the last 2 inches of your blade, nothing more. Once again, position yourself so that you can hit your targets with an extended arm. So, in Sabre, instead of focusing on stabbing your target, which we can do as well, we're going to look at cutting. So you're going to cut on the left side, then the right side of the target, like so, hopefully. Obviously, that one missed. Now this one's a lot harder due to the size of the target, but you can start to get a nice little rhythm up. Eventually, depending on how much blue tack, you will end up knocking the target over. But it's a nice way to get some fine blade control, left, right, getting used to manipulating the blade. And then if you take a step further back, you can go into your lunge again, and this time try and cut the coin with a lunge. And that one worked first time. Once you've got the hang of this exercise, like any of our exercises, you can try and adjust it and make it more challenging to yourself and even challenge some of your club members. So ways you can modify this exercise. Try having multiple targets. So see how fast you can hit 3, 5 targets, then challenge a friend. You could have your targets arranged at different heights, thereby representing different places that you can hit your opponent. If you're going to do different heights, however, make sure that you check that they're at sensible heights. You don't want to aim too high or too low where you wouldn't realistically be aiming in a match. Another thing you can do, hopefully you can just see from camera angles, is you can have coins, targets, at different distances. So one's at the front of the pan here, the other one is at the back of the pan. And that can represent different things. It can be representing aiming at the near side and far side of your opponent, and therefore it helps you adjust your distance. You have to still maintain point control, whereas whilst thinking about the distance that you're trying to cover. Once again, do consider, if you're making any adjustments of your own, consider the safety. Please do not break anything. And let me know how you get on with this exercise. If you've got any questions, comments, or things that don't really work, do let me know and we can adjust these as we go on. Thanks for watching.